Sonia, thank you for joining me today. Can you introduce yourself and explain what you do and who you serve?
Of course, thank you for inviting me. My name is Sonia Doulton. I was trained as an integrative psychotherapist. I work in the field of fitness. I work with clients in private practice mostly, with individuals and couples and groups. And I also run psychedelic retreats in the Netherlands and Jamaica. And I have an interest for anything that could be a tool for healing.
That's great. I know that you certainly are on the forefront of the innovation in mental fitness and mental wellness. And I want to know, uh, since we've talked, you've certainly tried the Contemplate program and begun doing both the training and incorporating it. Can you talk a little bit about your experience with it?
Yeah, it's been very insightful. There are lots of overlapping areas with psychotherapy, and so some of the language was somehow familiar and easy to adopt. He provided a framework and a structure that was incredibly useful. Sometimes having an extra tool, an extra method can just add to the work that we or I was already doing. So it was really nice to add this tool to my toolbox and have a language and a structure that could be helpful not only for myself and for my own personal process of growth, but also figure out ways to integrate it in my psychotherapy practice for the benefit of my clients.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
The um, program, as you began to go through it, did you uh, see anything different or feel anything different about uh, how you really saw the program unveiling itself, or um, elements that were different than some things you've seen before?
Yeah, I think what really worked for me, what I found extremely useful, was having this very clear holding structure. So the work was very detailed and targeted, and having the prompts really allows you to be very focused on your thinking. This is a process of deep thinking, and having a structure that encourages that and guides that deep thinking is extremely useful. Having also the option of tracking the progress I found very useful as well, to be able to go back to a scenario that I had already thought about or processed or spend some time figuring out, and then going back to it after a few days or after a few weeks, and see, having an opportunity to track the progress that I had done personally, but also with the clients that I've started integrating this method with, really allowed me to understand exactly what was happening and really have a track record of how that progress had happened and established itself. So I really found the how useful having a structure can be. Sometimes things in therapy can get a little bit abstract or even vague. So it's good to have something that really creates like a channel within which the progress is happening and unfolding.
Excellent. I know for myself, I I've recognized, or even the very first week, there were some principles that were very revealing, very insightful for my own uh, introspection or review. Were there any principles, part of the structure, that you had a fairly big impact, or recognized as something that was a new way or consideration, or that was just very helpful to you?
Well, interesting. There was one that was quite useful because as a therapist and as a mother, I take care of people all the time, as a job and as a role in life. And so the principle that really helped me, interestingly, unexpectedly even, was the principle of breaking down life to smaller units. And it really helped with sometimes that feeling of overwhelm that I have about all these people that I have to take care of, and really breaking it down to smaller chunks, and having actually within my vision planner an actual whiteboard where all these smaller chunks were well listed, really allowed me to go through all the tasks of my day-to-day life in a way that didn't feel as overwhelming as it sometimes can feel. Part of my job is about listening to people's pain, and people's suffering and people's stories of suffering all day. And so sometimes I can have that sense of overwhelm. Like I come out of a session thinking, okay, now I have to take care of this other story of trauma, and then I have to take care of my children. And so it really helped me feeling less overwhelmed and less anxious about moving from task to task, and being more in control of my day and less controlled by these feelings of overwhelm. So I'm very thankful. It's a very practical principle, if you like. Some of the other principles were just very natural to me, like principles like, the twin voices. We talk a lot about parts in psychotherapy. Principles about the principle of looking inward versus looking outward, or the urge to prove. These were all very familiar principles to think about, or even the meditations, the breathing exercises, the journaling. Those were all very much part of my practice already. So they were not coming as a new set of tools, but the breaking down in smaller pieces, in smaller units, for some reason I had never really approached life in that way. It was always about riding this big wave day after day, and to realize, oh, I only need to go from A to B, and having it like all panned down in a physical form was extremely useful. So I'm very, very grateful for that tool.
Oh, that's very insightful, I think. Um, it is a unique look at both your day, your month, your quarter, your audios year, and being able to structure the dimensions of your life and the goals, and then the tasks to achieve those goals using the principles. I also found very, very helpful,
Yeah,
and really new, something that I hadn't seen before.
yeah, yeah, correct.
Can you touch on sort of the part of audioscope, the sort of tool to help you make decisions? Is there a way that you were using it, or got to see it, that became helpful in any decision making that you had to do?
Yeah, sometimes when I'm in doubt about things, even sometimes smaller things, not necessarily the big existential questions, it's good to go down to the basic question through the audioscope, which is what is going to make me more peaceful in the long run, and what is going to make me more restless in the long run. And it really all boils down to that eventually for me. And that's such an important guiding principle for the decision making, that it really helps me clarify what really matters to me. And so sometimes when I have questions like that, I just go back to that and then kind of reduce it, simplify it to this basic question. And it's so much easier and so much more straightforward to get to the answer that that fits the question.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's I think most people have that same experience. I know I did as well.
Yeah.
Tarun describes um, removing all of the restlessness allows you to only have what's left is peace. And
Hmm.
so being able to know what's more or less allows you to get to that state.
Hmm.
The next question is really, have you applied this or have clients tried this after you've experienced it?
Yes, I thought about, oh, could this be a tool for therapy? And especially for maybe that population of clients who are asking a lot of questions to themselves, or who are finding slowing down still a bit of a challenge. I think that therapy, the success of therapy is really dependent a lot on the ability to slow down and to find stillness, so that out of the stillness some of those answers might emerge. And sometimes for people to be still is very difficult. And I have clients who come with a lot of questions, and it's just very difficult for them to listen, to hear the answers that would emerge if they would just take a breath and take a little bit of moment to stay still with themselves. For some people it's very difficult to be with themselves, and so they have like this tempest of questions for me as a therapist and for themselves, which will never find an answer, because there's no time to wait for an answer. And so I was thinking about this population of people that sometimes they come from a lot of trauma. They want the quick fix. They're expecting from you, you know, a quick fix solution to come. They see you as some kind of expert that has all the answers that they're looking for, but the answers are really only inside ourselves, and we can only access them when we spend a little bit of time just waiting and just breathing and just slowing down. And for those people who this type of approach to life is pretty much impossible, because of all the defense mechanisms that they had to put in place, the coping strategies that they had to put in place to deal with the traumas and the painful moments in their life. This is just, there's so much resistance to the process that sometimes it's really difficult to get through those defenses and those strategies of survival. And so to have a structure like that, that really asks you very simple questions, really allows you to take a moment to slow down, pause, and in that pause, find the answer. And sometimes it's really about stopping, asking the question, and taking a moment to wait for the answer, because the answers are there, but we don't quite know how to access them. And Contemplate is a structure, is a system, is a method that allows you to get to access those answers.
Hmm. Did with the clients that uh, tried the system, did they see a benefit? We know that therapy is always limited in terms of there just aren't enough hours in the day. There aren't enough therapists in the world. There aren't enough times to pull away from your regular life to get the attention you need.
Mhm.
Did the clients see any benefit by being able to have a tool with them outside of the office?
They did, and this is exactly the limitation of therapy, right? We're only meeting once a week for 50 minutes. What happens in the rest of the week, or even what happens in the rest of the day? And to have an opportunity to keep checking with ourselves through a method, because this is a practice and a method. To show up for the practice, it's something that we cannot do for them. This is really a commitment that they have to agree to take with themselves, and we don't really have a power to make them do it. But if they show up for the practice, the method will allow them to get where they need to be. And so in a way, they are in therapy 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, not only 50 minutes a week. And that's really the beauty of it, that there is a continuation of care that they can give themselves besides the time that they spend with me. So those who were committed to the practice are those who were able to accomplish the results that they were hoping for, that they were looking for. Of course, the practice is sometimes complicated because maybe there is some resistance, maybe we need a little bit of time to learn to show up for the practice. So sometimes the difficulty or the obstacle has been about people maybe not really committing to that practice on a daily basis, and that's the learning, that's part of the learning. But once they were able to commit to the practice, they were able also to get to the outcomes that they hoped. So I've seen very promising results, and that's why I'm so happy to offer it to people. Just, you can try it out, I say, and if it works for you, that's great. And if it doesn't, fine. We will look for other methods. But I think it's important to have methods to the practice. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's great insight. In the uh, introduction, you mentioned psychedelics and psychotropics, and I think that is both the next generation, the new wave, the new consideration to help patients move forward. Um, were you able to, or have you thought about ways that Contemplate could work in combination with a psychedelic practice?
I'm still exploring that. In fact, I am right now working on how to create a contemplate session in an expanded state of consciousness. But I have tried it to as an integration tool. So by integration, we mean all that work of processing, unpacking of the psychic material that was brought up during the psychedelic experience that we do after the psychedelic experience. And all the work that you do in preparation and integration of the psychedelic experience is vitally important. In fact, this work is threefold. The navigation part, which is the part that we spend with the psychedelic substance, it's only a third of the work. One third of the work is done in preparation, and one third of the work is done in integration. And so I can see how the contemplate a system can work really well in preparation and integration. And I'm working on figuring out how to use it during the navigation time, during the time in this state of expansion. Because when we are in a state of expansion, we have access to areas of our psyche that are not normally accessible to the conscious mind. And so when we have that opportunity, that open door that allows the access into this larger frame, I think it would be really useful to understand how to integrate this system so that people are prompted into deep thinking about whatever is emerging from their unconscious mind. We are making the unconscious conscious, so it'd be interesting to see what if we direct it within that material that is being brought up into a direction of deeper exploration or deeper unpacking of that material.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating just to consider the forefront of the next generation of psychotherapy and psychedelics and all of the rigor and process. So congratulations for being at the forefront of this change. That's great.
Yeah, it's fascinating, and this is really an open question for me. It's definitely an area of exploration that I'm holding with curiosity, because one school of thought is that the when we are in an unordinary state of consciousness, we need to allow the experience to take place, and so directing it could be counterproductive. And one school of thought teaches how to hold a beginner's mind and to really work with the material that the client is bringing up spontaneously and organically, rather than being of guidance and bringing a direction to it. But there are some people also starting to be more curious about, okay, what if we direct the journey towards areas that through the preparation process we know could be beneficial for the healing and transformation of that specific person. So
Yeah.
that's where I think that Contemplate could be an interesting tool, if we want to explore that approach to psychedelic therapy as well.
Yeah. Thank you. It's really amazing. Uh, I have one last question is, if a therapist or a therapy practice is looking to add to their work or add to their service to their clients, um, is there anything you would recommend about integrating Contemplate, or a way that they should think about it in terms of bringing it in and incorporating it into their...
Do your work, go through the program yourself, go deeper and deeper and deeper into the program, because I've been doing this for a while, but I feel like every day I'm learning something more and something new. So I think that once you feel comfortable with the program yourself and you've gone through the training, it's so much easier to understand the potential that it has, and also all the different layers that it can be used for the benefit of that specific client. I really believe that as therapists, we need to tailor our work to the client's specific and unique needs as they are presenting themselves session after session. And so the more we get to know the system through having experienced it ourselves, the more we can figure out that layer that is specific and perfectly fitting the specific needs, of that client, of that story, of that moment in the story of that client. So yeah, my recommendation would be to just go through the program and learn how it can be used, and be creative with it and be flexible with it, because it's got huge potential.
Sonia, thank you so much for your time today.
You're
I
welcome.
think your experience and your insight is just completely invaluable to us, and certainly we think that your work is amazing with your clients and your practice. So thank you.
Thank you very much.